Is it?
No,
So it's like
axes aren't
axes
heavy.
and-
We're not talking about sledgehammers now. You're coming, right? Thursday? Yes.
What time?
6
to
o'clock.
9.
Where?
Piano
Six,
booth,
6 to 8, 6 to
6
7.
to 8. You can come. We can just walk out together.
No, I'm just. Accident from sharp objects.
I'm gonna practice. I need to practice just in case I ever need that skill. I don't know if I'll be able to run out.
Do the ones where you can go in like. And stuff.
That was skill.
Leave that in here, remember?
You know what I'm talking about?
There's an escape room this later too. It's
Smash.
Yeah.
I feel like it's all one in here.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Scissor. Yes.
If you're feeling the trip to the ER.
I've had plenty of stitches. It's when I was like 3. My mom had this thing that had a razor blade on it for like cutting hair. Well, I took it apart. And I took the razor blade and I was like, I want to do what they do, and I slit my foot. Then,
Like trying to cut your bangs. You just went to the
Yeah.
forehead.
and then, let's see, I had stitches here because my dad used to take the dog food can, pull the lid
Oh, my
up and then put it down. But of course, Roxanne pushes it down and pulls it up and. Let's see. Serrated knife here, cutting a box.
Yeah, you're not allowed to laugh. That was enough.
Oh no, here's the best
Oh,
one.
God.
She's probably the best.
Okay.
Probably.
So the, oh, let's see here. Okay, so I had this, I was running a house, they had stone in the driveway, but underneath they had that black stuff. You know, and it's kind of like plastic. And so I was like, well, how am I gonna cut it? Cause it was showing. So I take scissors and I'm going like this. And then somehow I stuck it in my calf about 2 inches in. Ouch. Okay, so on Thursday, if I say I shouldn't be doing that,
We'll just restrict it, put a big circle with your name
Maybe-
and a circle with a cross to it.
Maybe they'll have the rubber axes for you, girl,
It's fun.
with the Velcro.
but even like the cap, I didn't have insurance at the time. So I almost passed out from it, so I freaked out. And I.
Listen, I joked, my son, when he was, that child has had more broken bones than I can even count. I used to say to him, we'd just walk into the hospital and they had a chair with his name on it and they'd go, hey, Jerry, how are you? I'm not kidding, he was awful.
Oh, yeah, I broke, I was playing tag and like that, broke my elbow. I mean, like, I got all kinds of
Wrap your mobile around.
crazy story. Hello, Miss Maria.
Hello.
How are you?
Jerry's
Barely.
Sits next to you, apparently.
No.
I just took all the Smarties out of there. So he left minutes up there with me.
You know, this Marty 3 here.
So that then, and pulled all the Smarties out. More.
That's hilarious.
You need to eat some Smarties with me, Maria.
Marty's got it.
Sure, Jared.
I'll put it over here.
I love Smarties. They do.
Oh, I love all that stuff, but I don't wanna go into the sugar coma, so.
These aren't necessarily, these are sweet and sour kind of thing. Oh, no. And yesterday I had was all pink and all pink, so it's sour. But they make it more, it's back in the sour.
I was going to say, she had any handouts.
Yeah.
Handouts there are.
Of paper.
We go.
I'm from that
In
generation.
business.
It was paper.
Hey, when I worked for M&T, they went green. And I used to tell them, just because your color is green does not make you green when I'm handing 180 pieces of paper to someone at a settlement. Sad.
I remember years ago, it's when I worked for Prudential. They said that we would want to be a paperless society in 10 years. That's like 40 years ago.
Yeah. So that worked.
Yeah. I think we have more paper.
We did. But every time something happens, there's a new form, a new, something that's something that's funny. Yeah, yeah. You went and picked your packages up at the bank, you hand delivered them back. You could fax, but it was that thermal papers,
Oh, yeah, I remember.
and I typed my HUDs. And there was an attorney in York that used to like to do them in pencil, and I said to him, you cannot do the HUD in pencil. He goes, yeah, but then if there's a mistake, I can change it. I said, and so can everybody else.
Yeah. God, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking the other day, like, why are candy bars $2.50?
That's cheap. I've seen them 3 something,
I know, right, it used to be 25 cents.
or even $1.
Stamps, I think they're close to 80 cents.
73, I think they are. And this is the first year they're not actually going up. I just read that the other day.
Well, thank goodness, because the priority mail packages, the medium used to be around $12. It's
Yeah.
now, I think, 20.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And I'm like, I have stuff to send to my daughter, and I'm like, I'm going UPS, not paying.
Yeah, it's cheaper to do it that way.
Yeah.
It's like when I send out like policies, if I have a stack that goes to the same lender, I'll do UPS because it's cheaper than trying to send them priority mail.
Oh, yeah, it's like, it's. Oh, and they changed, so first class used to be like any parcel, not anymore. It's only an envelope, it has to be flat.
Yes.
Everything else goes this new route that's more expensive.
I just took a package last week down to the UPS store and went in and I looked it up here. I weighed it and thought, okay, it's like $2.31. Told me it was $4.36. I'm like, did you double? Because the 4.60, it was like, oh, it's a place place. And she's like, no, that's what it is. And anyway, yeah. Good, how are you?
Good morning.
About the fires in California, people losing their home, trying to find new housing. New landlords are like inflating the rent, like 10 to 20,000. So one guy said, I offered, it was 10,000 something to do it, I would give them 15,000 a month for the next whatever month, and they found it at $23,000. Because you had it listed at 10, or whatever, I told you I'd give you 15, and now you're telling me 23,000. I'm like, how do you even do that to somebody? Like, to me, that's not good karma. You're gonna pay for that something.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Why are you all the way down there?
Come up here, girlfriend.
All right. Guess. Dan's gonna be late.
Is she coming?
Okay.
Dana Monday, pardon?
Dana. Roxanne.
I Dana, or Dana wanted to come through, but I knew she had something this morning.
I mean, they're gonna.
Come to but she had something.
Better some reason.
I thought that was like calibrated. Last fall. Somebody come and get me.
Just wait, just a.
Oh, thanks.
Wait a minute, I should go get my hat because the glare is probably getting.
Does anyone have it that they can see how it looks?
It was just a tab that I needed it.
You know that? All right.
Thanks so much. That's what I was.
Be back.
Here. Spotlight.
You are trouble.
No.
Can you go? Yeah, no disco light. No spotlight.
Or like the house in Hanover that had the TV cameras in the basement.
Maybe we're making movies. We're trying to get.
Yeah, these were like production level, studio level cameras. Yeah. Yep,
Yeah, I heard about that.
yeah, disco ball and, yeah,
With the. With the.
It was great.
mhm, different lights was. Yeah, then the stair. Had one of those staring escalators, whatever.
Live and in the flat, sure did.
It's really, even if you leave one point in this session, it's worth it.
Quiet,
How you feeling?
better.
Yeah.
My voice is not quite back yet, but
COVID, right?
yeah. Yep. Right after Thanksgiving. And then like most of December, I didn't leave the house.
Wow.
Thank goodness for online shopping. I was able to
Spend money.
do my Christmas shopping.
Okay, I guess we'll start. I know people will be. Oh, and you too?
Yeah, that's great. That's the idea. They're putting you in for more trainings.
You and Rachel.
Pressure's on.
Okay, so we'll start. I have 3 packets. One is, there's 8 pages, gives you every document that's in there. And I've made notes on things that you need to know or, just so you understand. All right, I'll leave. I'm chopped.
What's going
Are
on?
you in this from Roxanne?
Come on down,
Problem.
please.
Yes, the first 8 pages, I went into Dot Loop, I was able to print 8 pages for everything that's used in Maryland. And you're not going to use everything for all the time, but at least you know what they're called and the notes on them will help. So if you go past that, I gave you some miscellaneous things. And the National Priority List Super Fund, this is a brand new law in Maryland. So the next page gives you the website to go to, especially if you're listing a property, you need to make sure you check this. And if it is in a super fund area, then you need to use the agenda.
Yes.
Maryland's very particular about, you know, issues with the land, pollution, things like that. So then going on, just so you see it and you understand the foreign investment and real estate property tax. If somebody doesn't live in this country, but they own property, you're gonna need this for your listing. And it's important that your client knows the tax that they're going to send. I don't think they can, you know, they can look that up on in Maryland. Right, then the next one is the smoke alarm law. I gave you 2 different copies, but this happened in 2018. And, you know, the law requires the replacement of battery only operated smoke alarms with a sealed 10-year battery. But if it's a newer build, it has to be wired in. So this will just give you and your clients information. It talks about existing homes and new construction. You will find a lot of sellers have no clue about this. So it's really important, especially if a buyer's gonna have inspections, this will be notated. Alright. Moving on. I gave you a copy of a settlement sheet. Because in Maryland, they do not make their money from title insurance here in PA. They make their money differently. So if you go to the second page, you will see that there's a notary fee, 150, and they can charge that amount if they are traveling from their office to do settlement someplace else. Also, their fee, $7.95. So they're gonna that's their money to make instead of the title insurance. I have seen these fees up to 1,400, which is ridiculous in my personal opinion. And then above that, you'll see transfer tax, state deed to clerk of the circuit court. This is tax that the seller is paying because the buyer is a first-time home buyer. So they're gonna pick up some of that transfer tax. The first-time home buyer, they can only do it once in their life. Let's say they bought a property and then down the road, they buy it with other people. If any of those people have bought before, then they can't have that first-time home buyer. So it's one time, either when you buy or with a group of people. Okay, the next. I'm giving you a copy of the notice of assessment. I'm sure you all heard, have to see that Maryland property taxes are going up. We're gonna go.
I'm sorry, back on that transfer tax that you said the seller is paying if it's a first time buyer. So if they're not the first time buyer, are they splitting that?
Yes. So this notice of assessment is showing in the middle that it's currently assessed at 194,700. They're gonna add 89,700 to make it 284,400. And it shows below that how they're going to phase it in. This is something that everybody, I've talked to all my clients, they're not happy with it because essentially the taxes are gonna raise about 20% household. Okay,
Hey, Roxanne, thank you briefly. I read this somewhere, I don't remember that $500 on the first time buyer. That's not, it's the buyer can choose it, they don't have to choose it, right? If they want to make their offer better. The first time, it's a choice, you don't need to show
Right.
it that way, but you can request, okay. Wonderful.
and it's really, everybody thinks it's this huge savings and it's not that much.
Yeah.
Like this one was 500. Some of them are more depending on county and some other factors. And you can always call, like a title company and ask them. About
What is in theirs, okay.
Is it only? Yeah. No, but. Yeah, but I'll check. Excuse me. Right, so the next one, yes, ma'am,
The first time home buyer, you said in Maryland, you can only be considered a first time home buyer once.
yep. You only get that savings once.
This transfer tax savings.
You can only be a first-time home buyer once, so you only get that tax saving with the transfer tax.
Is that new in Maryland? You can only have the first time home buyer status once.
Yes, if you sell your house and you buy another house, you don't get that.
Are you confusing with the FHA lending?
Is that what I'm doing? Because I know after a certain amount of years, if you purchase another house, you can be considered
This
first
is,
time home buyer.
what she was saying is
Just
it's in
for the
regards to
transfer
the
tax.
credit only.
Okay,
So the credit only, but for the loan program, which is if you're thinking of like FHA, which is a commonly used first time home buyer program, that you can use that multiple times.
okay. So that was,
Okay, good. Right, so the next one I gave you, I just printed it out at the bottom, it's highlighted, the minimum amount. You can go on here, set up an account, it's free, you can look up any deed. You can find a deed, the releases, sometimes I use it because I need some history, understand what's going on. Okay. Next one is this informational advertising checklist. It's very similar to Pennsylvania. Okay. Then I gave you change in terms. So the first one is for the listing. Because it's you might be extending the date, the expiration date. The listing price or lease price might be changed. And then anything up. The next change in terms is for everyone. Purchase price, settlement date, and this is once you have a ratified contract. So anything on here And the boxes that they have, you choose one side or the other. So the right or the left. Let's see. All right, and then the brokerage agreement amendment is, let's see, for the MLS. So if you have a contract with your seller and then they change their mind about something, you'll need this. So they might say in the beginning, yes, I went on the MLS. And then they'll say, no, I don't, so you need this form. There's concessions on here. And coming soon, you'll get to that, but your seller has to approve for it, to be coming soon or not. Okay, and then the compensation may change. And the CBC. So this is just for your seller. Okay, and the last one is the Maryland Homeowners Association Act. So let's say you have a listing and then all of a sudden the HOA fees go up. If they go up more than 10%, you will use this and add it to your documents in the MLS.
Then it's 10%. And if it's less than 10%,
Then you don't need that. You can just change it.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you said about the title insurance. The reason that Maryland and Pennsylvania are so different is Pennsylvania is an all-inclusive state, which includes everything, our searches, exam fees, anything like that. Maryland, they do not. So that is what when you see those extra charges, she said about the 1,400 ones, because they do what they like to call an all-inclusive fee. But we're not going to do that. Coming up with our list, but it's going to cover the things like our third-party costs that are not included in the title insurance. I just want to put that.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
plugging us too while we're here.
No, that is fine. Yes. Oh, also title in Maryland, you might see a fee for a technology fee. They will fluff the Ulta. So if you don't like it, call. And normally they'll take it off. They can also, most every title company in Maryland is owned by an attorney. So you're always gonna have an attorney either on site. Someone that you can call. And it kind of makes it a little easier sometimes with questions. The other thing is, they will try to do a land survey. And it's not like a survey that we're used to. It's where the attorney takes the plot of land, figures out where some things are, puts them on that. And a lot of title companies will just do it and charge your client. And I always call and say, but we didn't ask for this. So take the charge off. Okay. All right, you. No, you had a question. Me? Yeah, didn't you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're next gonna go to buyers. The first one is the consumer notice. It's only for buyers. And then we go into the residential contract state. There are similar things. Second packet, Ryan.
No, I was looking.
Oh. Okay, so. There are a couple of things that are different. The payment terms. Okay, this is for the EMD. the buyer has delivered or will deliver within, and we pick the amount of days. I think that using the days that we do up here, like 5 is really good. Then you're gonna do deposit by way of, there's a lot of wiring in Maryland. So they can do it by check or they can wire it. And then the amount. Now in C, the listing office, is the EMD, not the buyer's office. And I would say probably 90% of the time, people use a title company. So, so there's a form that goes with that, and I'll go over. Then on the next page, the date of settlement, and then where you see addenda and disclosures, these are all.
For the estate portion, I know we've run into this, especially like in Baltimore City where they're talking about it. If we go on that site that you gave us for the deeds, will it tell us on there if there's gonna be ground rent?
It should, and it might be. You might have the regular deed. And then, if you can search by name and you can search by address. So. It will probably be separate. And those ground rents, I will go over that, but. They're mostly in Baltimore City and Anne Arundel County. It's amazing how much is in Anne Arundel for even single family.
Okay. You can check it on SDAT too, SDAT,
Okay.
and there at the top, there's a couple different things. You can check ground rent, and there's something else, some of it in the registration.
Is there no response date on the Maryland contract?
No, it has time of the essence and it tells you what it is, but no, there's none. So,
Additional terms.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you can add an addendum, but normally they don't hold them for a long time. So,
Also in Maryland, you can look up ground rent and it'll say that it's ground rent, but sometimes it's been purchased. So you need to do further research. I just ran into that with the house I just listed. When they pulled it, it said it was ground rent. So they had to do further research because there was no ground.
so SDAT, which I have in here, is where you can go to look up the property record. And at the top, you can look at the boundary lines. You can see if it has ground rent or if it's been paid off. So there are a lot of people that own the ground, especially in Baltimore City. And it's not that much that they charge, but it's kind of been like handed down from generation to generation. But it can be paid off. So if your client is like, I really don't want that, then they need to call the city and find out how to redeem it. Okay, so back to page 2. These are all the addendas and disclosures that would be part of the list. And you're not going to have all of them, but whichever one you use, you need to check off. Number 3 is the finance. And they give you lots of choices. Make sure you check one. And then you decide the application date, the commitment date. And you know, you might get an so you might be making an offer and you know, if you put these dates in and they're too far away, they'll probably counter them where they'll be okay. All right. This is really important at the bottom. number 25. Maryland used to have an as-is form. But they don't have it anymore. So all properties are sold as is. Okay, if you're a listing agent and you get an offer and they add the as-is form, it's not valid because of this paragraph. Okay, it doesn't mean you can still do inspections, you can still reply to inspections, but this is just general. Okay, next page. The inspections, you are going to check if you've attached them or they're declined. And then down at 29, water quality, you're going to do that because your inspections, one form is like your general. Then your water quality, stuff and things like that are an additional addendum. And then under 30 and 31, make sure you fill that out and put seller. So sometimes there are agricultural taxes and you don't want to buy those. They can be hefty. It's normally just on land. And then the forest conservation, the one with seller. All right. Everything 35 talks about ground rent. And then there's a couple of paragraphs that your client needs to read and initial. Then we can go back to page 8. At the bottom, number 52 is about the first time home buyer. And it explains that the tax is reduced by half and shall be paid entirely by the seller. And then I leave everything else blank so that it's split equally. Okay, page 10 at the bottom is the date of contract acceptance. It needs to be filled in. And if it's a first time home buyer, use that. And then the last page is all the information that we put at the top, the first page of our buyers. Okay. So then it goes on to conventional financing. And I gave you an example of FHA and conventional, but USDA, VA, if a seller is doing the financing, those are all addendums. Okay, so on the conventional financing, you always want to pay attention, and this is on every one of the loans. The lender required repairs. So you're saying, if the appraisal comes back and says you need this and you need this, you're going to put in an amount when you make the offer that it doesn't exceed. So I never do more than 1,000. Sometimes I do 500, depending on the property. If you want to do more, you can do more. They may counter it. Then the FHA, the same thing about the repairs, but this is a little different than what we're used to. So you'll have your MIP and then your base loan, which is the amount minus the 3.5%. then you add those together to get the total loan amount. Have on here, the interest rate. You know, normally 30 years. 15, and then you'll just see where some initials and signatures and. Okay. All right, so the next one is the escrow agreement between buyer, seller, and escrow agent. You only fill out the top portion where it's highlighted and number 1. This goes with your offer. It's not a part of the contract, but it needs to go so that the seller knows who's going to hold the money and who title is. And then once you have a ratified contract, this needs to go to the title company and they will fill out the rest and return it. You would also want to ask them a copy of the EMD, whether it's a picture or a lot of times it's been wired, so you'll just get a form showing it's been received. And then the next one is this is for contingencies of selling a house, financing, settlement. It's just that contingency of like we have up here, and then again, you would pick let's see. So each letter or number has the little squares, just pick one side. And then the buyer's request for seller's compensation. Make sure you fill out number 1. Recently, I have been seeing number 2 filled out. I don't know why. So just make sure you do number 1. And let's see. Another question, you maybe fire single and savings settlement. Is there just this addendum? I know we have savings settlement take out. Yes, they were nice. They put it all in one form.
So there's not enough in the consumer.
All right. No, and I think it's like a given, but I would do an addendum.
Given that you can.
Yes. Gift of funds addendum. Only use it if it's a contingency. Doesn't matter if your clients are getting the gift. You can keep it to yourself unless it's a contingency. So if they don't get that money, then they can't buy the house you need for. Let's see. Cost sheets are not required in Maryland. However, they are required for our compliance. I would do them through Bright. Because Bright will pick up all the different fees, transfer taxes, and it will ask you if your client is a first-time buyer for that. So that will, you know, all kick in. There's also, depending on who you use for title, they normally have a portion of their website where you can do a cost sheet on there for sellers and buyers. Let's see here. There are lots of programs in Maryland for buyers. There's the MMA, which is Maryland Mortgage Assistance Program. It can lower the interest rate. It can also help with closing costs. There are some really good lenders in Maryland, like Andrew knows how to do them, but there's some of the programs that he's not as familiar with, because I've asked him about this. So there's some really good lenders down there that can do these programs in like 21 days. They have more programs and I think they're a little bit better than PHFA.
Definitely.
They had a certain amount of time to be in the house, 5 years. If they sell before that, they have to pay the money back. Montgomery County has a special program there. And so like right now, there's a townhouse in Gaithersburg on the market for 188, which is unheard of, but it's because it's under that program. So nobody can buy that house out being in that program. So always make sure you check like the agent notes, because if you see something really low, there's
Are they
probably that.
achievable? Are they- Program, like VA?
I think it's, I think it's, you have to apply, be a part of the program, and then you can buy within that program. And then Montgomery County and DC, their association is together. So if, like you're getting reciprocal central lock. I would tell you to get that one. Maybe you don't work down there, but a lot of those lock boxes are in Fredericktown. Let's see. All right. Also, let's- all right, inspections in Maryland are a little different. They do not pump stuff. Talked to an inspector and said there's no reason to do that because in the top part of the tank is where all the gases are. So if rebar is going to show, it's going to show there. And they can also look at the baffles when we open it. So, I mean, I kept asking about, aren't you gonna pump it? They're like, why? We don't do that here. They don't have like an SEO or anything like that to report to.
Are you getting them pumped when you do them? Nope.
Termite inspection is done by a termite inspector who is licensed through the government. You will never find a home inspector that is also a termite inspector. And you will find inspections are a little more expensive. There's, there's some bigger companies and they are quite expensive. So, if you need to know about a company with decent prices, let me know. And then sometimes septic, that's just like their own inspector. So, but I would tell you to kind of check around on pricing because let me see, my listing in Bel Air, they did every inspection. House, termite, pool, chimney, water, septic, and they paid $2,400. So, it's important. Know who's going to. Okay. So now we are going on to the Okay. So the first form on the next packet, you have to display this at an open house. No matter what. You don't want another agent coming through and not seeing this and then reporting you. And Maryland, agents did do that. Okay, so the next form is you understand who the real estate agent represents. This is like the seller's.
Consumer notice.
Right, so this is like the consumer notice, okay, on the second page. You can see, you check a couple things. And you have your client sign it. Now, if they refuse to sign it, then you will put their names and you will sign it. But you will not sign this unless they don't sign it or refuse to sign it. All right. On to the exclusive right to sell. So you have this one, they want land, unimproved land or improved land. You just have to look for which one you need. This one, like on our contract, you don't have to put that first date of when it's starting, but you have to have the ending. So make sure you do both, because it will make it invalid if you don't have both dates. Yes, ladies? Oh, okay. And then in this box, I wrote in termination shall be in writing and signed by seller and broker. You can change the wording, that's just what I use. But just make sure it states that it's in writing. Okay. And then page 2, I want this. This is the one thing you won't like, but you're going to have a lockbox addendum. You have to have it and signed to put a lockbox on a listing. In number 6, it mentions it, but then you have to write in here the days and times of the showings. And it has to be specific. So if it's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to noon, and then the rest of the days, 9 to 5, or whatever it is, it needs to be in there. And then you'll just go through a lot of the other things that are very similar to Pennsylvania about listing it on the MLS, marketing it, and then on page 3, there's that coming soon listing status. So they will have to approve that you can do that. And you may want to ask them how long they want it to be incoming soon, because as you know, there's no time limit on it in break anymore. So there's a listing my client's been watching since September that's still incoming.
Well, break it well.
No, Bright changed the
They didn't
rules.
say-
There's no time limit on coming soon anymore.
Part of the agreement, isn't it?
I
So
don't
part of the
like, but
agreement,
You think of it?
yeah, it's part of the agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that change.
so. Let's see here. Then there's seller concessions on the MLS. And yeah, or not approve that. And then number 8, consent to discuss other properties with buyers at seller's open house. Most of my clients say, no, I don't want you talking about another house. I just want you talking about my house. So make sure they make a decision. Then the home security system. Sellers are not allowed to listen or listen or record conversations during showings, anything. I had a client that did it. And I always wondered why he knew, like, what the buyer wanted. And then I was like, do you remember signing this? Because it can be a real problem. Okay, and then you got,
Stuff.
right,
So like the rainbow, so that
yes.
inside the walls.
Yeah, in schools and laws. And seriously, you don't want your seller listening to that anyways. Because they can take something said and, form an opinion. Page 4 is broker's compensation. Please make sure if you're going to charge a broker's fee that you do the second one, because if you don't, you cannot charge that fee.
Right.
So don't forget that. Okay. The other page is, the smoke alarm. It's on here, but you've already seen the form that you can use. Sometimes it's good to put it in your documents. But you don't have to. So this is all. Okay. Coming to page 6. Any renovations in there, inside or outside, have to have a permit. The permits come from the county. The county governs the land, unlike up here, the boroughs and townships. So make sure that when you're listing a property, you ask them, oh, you have this, extension that was put on the house. Did you get a permit? It's really important. They have permits. Let's say you have an above the ground pool, you need a permit. So just make sure that your seller has, done what they need to do.
Question. What? About permit. So if my seller bought a renovated house, he should have permits, right? So if he's going to sell a house, does he have to produce those same permits or only for work that he had done, he or she?
You don't have to provide the permits,
Okay.
but what your seller has owned, you want to find out, did they do renovations and did they get permits? Now, you don't need them for like painting, carpet,
Right.
those things, but the state wants to make sure that the plumbing was done correctly,
But
the electrical,
he wouldn't have to have that if he didn't do it, if he bought a home that was renovated.
right,
So now that he's selling it, he doesn't have to have
he
those,
doesn't have to have.
only what he
previous.
had done. He or she. Okay.
If your client hires a professional, they will pull the permits. Even septic, they will do it. Okay. Let's speak here. Okay, number 23. It took me a while to understand this. This is about the disclosures and the disclaimer. The only time you would do exempt is for the estate sale. There's a POA, the normal things that we would have up here where they don't have to fill them in. So normally it's not exempt, which they're going to have to fill out something. You'll just go through page 8, conservation easements. If there is one, I'm gonna fill it out. If not, leave it blank. Okay, so this Maryland non-resident seller, it doesn't explain everything in the contract. So I called the lawyer in Maryland and got all the information. Because I didn't know part of this. So if you live outside of Maryland and you go to sell your property, you could be charged an 8% non-resident seller tax. This would absolutely apply to all like rental properties, investment properties. But if you have moved out of the state and you lived in the house 2 years out of the last 5, you're exempt. But it doesn't have that in here. And so I was talking to a title company and I was like, aren't you gonna charge them? Their license is in a different state. And they said, no. They told me, about the 2 out of the 5 years. So I called my real estate attorney just to check.
And it's just based on what they say. Is there verification in that?
Oh, yeah, I'm getting. Sorry.
Oh.
Yes, there's a reason, sorry. All right. Okay. Okay, and then the last page is you're going to check what goes along with this contract. Consent for dual agency, the disclosures. Lead-based panel. Let's see here, lockbox, these are like the common ones. The Maryland Lead Poisoning Prevention Program disclosure is only if the property has been a rental. Then there's the disclosure disclaimer. There is a form for the non-resident seller transfer withholding tax. And then the super fund, if it is in that area. And solar panels. They're kind of hit or miss on there. But if they have them, make sure you use the form.
Good question for you for the dual agency. I thought you were not allowed to do that in Maryland. Is that you just have to have the consent form for every listing with dual agency?
Okay, so for dual agency. You would fill out the form and both parties have to agree to it. So you would fill out the form and that dual agency is if, let's say you have a listing and Bob has a buyer. It's for like the inner office.
So it's only for inner office.
Yes, so let's say you have a listing and you have an agent from Keller Williams and Frederick. You don't need the form because they're out of our office.
Okay, it's only related to the office.
Same
but not
office.
Agent,
Gotcha.
agent cannot do dual agents.
Yeah, so I would just have to find, if I brought a buyer, I would just have to designate agent to.
Yes, you
Finish that
can,
off.
yes, you can do that. You could, refer it for referral fee, whatever you want to do. There's also dual agency within a team. So if you have a team, yeah, you have a team. And you're doing everything, but she's doing a little part of the transaction, then you would need that form. It doesn't mean that you're both like listing it together. It just means if you are doing some work to help, yeah. All right, so the disclosures of inclusion, exclusion. They changed this form, thank goodness, because it used to be a lot of different forms. So you just have your seller fill it out. And instead, it used to be where you would pick this form, you'd have to copy it onto the author, but you don't anymore. They will just include this, and this is one of the forms that you'll put in your documents in print. Okay,
I'm sorry, just really quick, you did say in Maryland, if I have a listing and not, or would think that said it, and I bring in the buyer, I can just do a referral with someone in the office and not worry about it. Okay.
Yeah, so just call.
No, still need the dual agents forms, it really ends south of you.
So yes,
Okay.
and we have an inner appraisal put together and that comes in for, that's just for our office.
Just think past that. Okay.
Okay, so
So just in case.
property disclosure and disclaimer. In Maryland, they do not have to fill out the disclosure, although I try to get them to do it. It's not as detailed as we have here in PA. But if they don't want to do that, then page 4 is the property disclaimer fee. It's about latent defects. A lot of people check no, but if they know the latent defect, it has to go in the box. And you may have to explain what a latent defect is. Okay. And you'll see more of the disclaimer than anything else. And I really wish they would have to fill out the first. Okay, so the next one is a listing broker offer, cooperative compensation, self-explanatory, just wanted to see it. Don't need that. And this doesn't go in the MLS. This stays in your file. Let's see. All right, notice to buyer and seller of buyer's rights and seller's obligations. This needs to be filled out, signed, and it goes into the documents and break. On the first packet, when I make notes, it'll say, like, listing, like you need it all the time, or it's part of the listing, it will be there. Okay, the lockbox addendum is simply that you have to agree to have a lockbox plan. Have a tenant. The tenant would sign. Okay. Lead base paint, very similar to what we have. You will. You will use this one unless you have, it's been a rental. You want to use the other one. Okay. And here's the dual agency. So this is the form that you will use. Your seller will need to sign it saying they're okay with that. And then the buyer would have to be okay with it in order to have that dual agency, which we talked about, like a retail. Okay. Okay. Deferred water and sewer charges are also called a front foot fee. It's when a builder attaches like the sewer and the water from the street to the house. They normally pay a yearly amount. I haven't seen it, it's been like $800 a year. And it's either 15 or 30 years that they will pay it. But if they have that, make sure you use the form so that the buyer will know, you know, do they want to take that off? Because it moves from homeowner to homeowner. All right. Here, the next one is Maryland Real Property Search. And the second page, I pulled Whitaker. Okay, so when you go to Maryland real property search, you will put in, I normally put in a county and the type of search. It's easier to do address. You don't have to put like the number, the house number you can. And then the street name, if you do just the street name, it'll bring up everything on that street. So the example I gave you, shows you everything about this property. It may have more information than you get in Bright. You can see that at the top, you can view the map. It'll show you where the property is, what's around it. It was really helpful to me because I had a landlocked piece of property to sell. And it helped me to see like where it was. And it was completely surrounded. There was no way to get to it.
So this could also help if something doesn't come up in Bright.
So, but this is really important. Remember, I said out of the past 5 years, a person will be exempt from that 8% tax. Title is going to look at this. And where it says principal residence at the top on the right, if it says yes, that's what they use as their proof. So not everybody always changes the tax records. Now, if you buy it as an investment, it's gonna automatically put no there. But if they see that yes, then your client may be good with not paying that 8% tax. Okay. I gave you some stuff on condominiums and then HOA. Let's say you're down in Howard County in Columbia. Certain parts of Columbia have a condo fee. Hi. Certain parts of Columbia have a condo fee and an HOA. So it's really important to just ask your client, make sure they tell you everything, because sometimes to them it's the same, but it's different paperwork. So with a condominium, you will have there's 3 forms. There's the resale notice. There is the there is the receipt of information, which will be filled out by the buyer and returned to the listing agent, and that's that they receive the condo documents. Whether it's HOA or condo, they have to have those resale packages 15 days before settlement. So when you get a ratified contract, your seller needs to order them immediately, because it can take normally 2 weeks, but it can take longer depending on the, they're going to go into a portal and they are going to order everything. And they're going to pay for it. It's probably, let me see what I'm seeing, about $250. If they want to rush on it, it'll be extra and costly. So, good rate. The resale notice. And then. And then there's. And so. Anyway. The one that is well. And all this goes in the document. Oh, so two. Oh, well, that's the rules. Oh, okay, yeah, another one. Yeah, thank you. Okay. We just want all those filled out. And then the homeowners association, they have this homeowners form. I think they have like 6 or 7 of them. So you have to pay attention to how many lots there are. If it's like this one is, this one is, if the buyer is gonna occupy, or it can be for rent as well. And this is the first one, this is the transmittal of documents. Let's tell you that. Because I remember HOA and condo, they're separate management companies. So like I was saying in Columbia, you're gonna have to go to both of those up. And in Columbia, HOA is their Columbia Association. If they are making a certain part of the city, is absolutely to be a part of it. And that is like their gyms, the pool, you know, those different things. So it will be on top of the condo fee. And in your listing, make sure you put those. And then there's, you know, there's a couple more forms. These are only some of them, so it can be really confusing. You know, some of it is 12 lots or more. Some of it is 12 or less. Some are just for renters. So you just need to kind of go through and find what you need. That's it.
You can find all this in, you can find all this in command, right, under the,
Yes, so
DocuSign.
you need to be a part of MAR, not you associate.
right,
The MAR, you will get all your documents. You will have to, but they should be, if you're using, whatever program you're using, DocuSign or Dotly, they will be there. Now you need a county form for each county. And you can go to MAR and pull those. They're just a little bit different. Let's see, Washington County is about farmland. Anne Arundel County is about the noise from BWI.
What about Baltimore City?
Yes. Yes.
yeah, they're on
Yeah, Baltimore, they all have their own things. So I just download them and I put them, you know, where I can get to them. And then. Let's see. Reciprocity of central lock. You can do that through the right app. They have all the forms that need to be filled out. Carroll, Howard, Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and Hartford County are all under one. Frederick has their own. We already have reciprocity for Penmar, which is Pennsylvania. I think it's like Franklin County and Washington County. Let's see here. Just make sure if you're going to Cumberland, which I've done, that you have central lock for their county and Allegheny because they overlap. That's the only thing about the lock boxes is you can have a lock box from, you know, Ocean City up here on a Frederick house.
If you don't have access, you'll be careful of that. I've run into that in Emmitsburg. Lock boxes out of DC and they go, you have central block. I'm, yeah, sure do. I go in and all of it, and I'm calling them and going, oh, you don't have access to that box though.
Right, so that's why I said the Montgomery County and DC their association is together. And I would definitely get that because you will find those lock boxes even in Carroll County. Yeah, I've had that same problem. Like, well, how am I gonna get in? And so make sure you do that.
Is it just Baltimore City that has tenants first right of refusal?
There's actually a form
Yeah,
for it.
like, is it just Baltimore City or the
It's the whole state,
double state?
yeah. Do you all know what that is, first right of refusal?
I think if you could go over it for me, that'd be great.
It's just if you have a tenant,
Mhm.
if you have a tenant. And you're gonna sell the property, you need to go to them and say, would you like to buy it?
Interesting.
And if they don't want to buy it, then you put it on the market. If they want to buy it, then you have to work out an agreement with them.
And it has to be like, if you're gonna list it, like one five, can't tell them, I'll sell it to you for like 200, it has to be.
That's what I was thinking of, but yeah, I mean, wherever you're going to potentially list it for, that has to be your offer price or lower to the tenant. I would imagine.
And they have to
Yeah,
follow.
you're not required.
Yeah.
to offer it. Is there a timeline for that? Because I could see a tenant just saying, yeah, I'm gonna buy it, and then, I mean.
Yes, I think the form, like. I think it has dates on.
Okay.
They have to get, I get pre-qualified within.
Well,
within 60
it's
days.
gonna be real.
Yeah.
Wrong-minded for a minute.
That's, what you have a tenant that rarely pays their rent, you gotta look them first.
It's still list. Say, 20, list for 250, tell them 250 and then reduce the price after a certain amount, but I guess it's still, it kind of puts you in the weeds a little bit doing that.
Does the first right of refusal have any bearing once there's an offer on the property? Because normally first right of refusal is written up front, and it's first right of refusal once there's an offer accepted that says basically. You get your offer and whatever you want to have the first right to refuse, that to equal or better that offer.
That's true.
That's what they're usually when first right of refusal is given. I haven't seen one. Usually if there's first right of refusal legally written on a deed, it's basically you come up with your price and your buyer. I have the opportunity to use that deal. You bring your best offer and I have the right to accept it or refuse. But look the form up and see what it says.
Yeah, I would have to look for a form of. It's never dealt with that. Oh, and then on the MLS, the documents. If for some reason you forget a document and you get an offer, they'll put it in there and then your seller will have to sign it. But, most everything we talked about will have to go in, like a simple one is like 4 documents. If it's more, if there's HOA, condo, you have to make sure all those forms are in there. Because you're giving information to the buyer to help them to make a decision about making an offer. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me.
We're working in Maryland a lot. How many agents are nailing this percentage wise? Because last offer I wrote was a year and a half ago. I told the agents about that. I don't operate in Maryland much. But I gave you everything. And she looked at me and said, these things aren't even needed. I said, look at your state agreement. They're mandatory. And she was like, oh, I didn't even know I needed this. I was asking her for help and she didn't know what she needed. And I found that to be pretty common down there in asking questions.
Yeah, so, it honestly, like all my knowledge has come from asking a lot of questions to different people. There's a lady down there, she's a broker. If I have a question, she'll let me know. There's a class that the Frederick and Columbia office do. I took it. I actually didn't get a lot out of it, but it's on when we get the weekly email, Julie, it's on there. It'll say like Maryland training calendar and it changes automatically. So you can see when they're having the class. If you want to go to the class, you just need to call the office and let them know that you'll be attending. But you will find there's a lot of agents that aren't doing things right, or they're bringing in forms that are no longer a part of Maryland. Because that's what they want to do. So if you're getting an offer, really check over it. make sure everything's been filled out. If it's not, I just send it back and say, you know, you need to make this correct. If you need, go to your broker.
Just like Pennsylvania with different forms, what you're saying. It's
Yeah,
just like Pennsylvania with different.
it's,
different things.
Even Maryland agents, there's a real problem right now with them coming up to Pennsylvania, not knowing.
I get Maryland forms all the time.
Yeah, they're gonna try to put Maryland forms in, they're not accepted. You know, Peter Ruth even did a class for Maryland agents to try to help them with our paperwork, which honestly, I think is a lot simpler, even though, like, I'll be writing an offer up here, and I'm like, am I forgetting something? Because there's so much you have to attach to your offer. Let's see. Yeah. So, you know, I don't expect you to remember all this, but I hope I gave you enough like information in the forms to understand it. But if you don't, then just reach out to me. Thanks, Roxanne. That's been nice. I appreciate it. Great. Guess I'm not lucky. People within Maryland have been helpful.
Very, me too. They need to do it. That was the easy one. Everything. Eat it all, everything except. But I didn't think. Yeah, I didn't pay all the transfer tax, all the everything.
It's like, you look, you know, you're not.
It's like in between these. So, it'll probably be around the 150-ish range. Little post everything type of the south of the west.
Maybe.
I figured you would have somebody. Yeah. We're on social media, right? It'll be, it'll be.
Story and everything, but I just
do. Might take a minute to change the time, like two, but. People don't wanna be in Maryland anymore.
You don't. Maybe. Stop. Well, we like to work. What you need. Sorry, I know it's what you might say. I haven't said not here. I think no, it's one. I did have a little close to some and all stuff.
We're passed out, like, you got steaks and everything.
He's got a third bed. And there's nothing in there but shoes and sneakers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, none of that. No. Anybody. Fix that. The door. Oh, yeah, right. So
She's.
I'm like, I'm not here. Like, you need professional pictures. Without waiting. Thank God. Well, I'm there too. I don't care what you guys are talking about. You're just like.
Oh, it's down. Great. And that's all it's got. So. Let's go. So. To, or right by his house, so that they can get down. Seems like a street, North Street
I don't know.
and Fourth Street. There were 2 or 3 other ones through the alley area. So I was. So.
Something.
So you know.
I don't know. Yeah, you just. That's right. I. And somebody else, like, just read it. But if I is somewhere here.
Hey, I was not hearing back from you showed up at it.
Job.
Yeah, it's in the neighborhood, but that's very, that's just.
I just made it where I had everything.
Yeah, I need
I essentially just choosing. And then. Okay,
Gettysburg, Maryland.
Yeah. But I use it like.
One credit.
Very good question. I just kind of. Yeah.
I just.
No, Liz,
I just feel I won't do it. I know I won't go there, read it, and I will want to.
Well, and she's on the trail. I do, you try to make use of my time, but she's like. So I feel like. Five is. Yeah.
He had read, he read about it.
Been doing a lot of just like. They don't even. It's like not actually having, I have a newfound appreciation for it. I mean, showing some certainty. I mean, I don't think that I'm there yet. I remember one of the first ones I was the first person I have. But I remember calling him here, he's so. He was like, I'm only, and I'm just, how does this dude do business? Get it though.
Yeah.
I get it.
And he's gonna.
And I'm just a few months in, but I get it, he's professional at the time, and I think otherwise. I didn't read any, I become at my buyer's. Yeah. I guess I'll go on ground. I think so. Maybe like, if that, they don't have, so. I was down, I'm just here. Figure out was, you know, the day, like, just trying to be more intentional with time blocking and.
This one here, so this is buyback accounting by Dave Martell. And they'll go over all of that, everything. It's really great.
I just.
Buyback. Business. And it's not just like.
And if you need to.
Like stack it and put it together. You have, if you can, if you have, whether it's. On this day, this day, next day, or however.
Yeah.
So you want to be production and then put up a listing and showings and then like 7 different things. All of it, like all of your shows. Production, like these. Them to get to, it keeps you in the same that instead of like going. It's definitely. But
Yeah, just because I'm so early on, I'm just trying to do everything. It's not, there's really like. Yeah.